Now, my approach within the few time that I have to discuss about Pan-Africanism, I think my approach will be focused on one thing, the time at which we are today, and actually is a question to all of us to understand or to question ourselves, what time is it? Because time dictates behavior, time dictates attitude, and time dictates actions that people have to implement according to the time that people are going through. Now, talking about that, one thing I can say is that we need to realize that we are now at a time of danger, time where the situation or the customs as we have had them are now changing. But most importantly, my point is, as the time is changing or is a time of danger, it's also a time of opportunity, because danger and opportunity are the two sides of the same coin. We just need to look properly on the other side to see opportunities, in the face of the danger that we might be facing. Now, I'm going to explain to you quickly why is this time a time of danger, and what are the possible opportunities that we can eventually exploit within the midst of all trouble, all the troubles that we are facing now, or all the danger that we are facing currently. The first thing that we have to understand is that the world is dramatically changed. Where we came from, we had a world that was governed or led by religious leaders, the priests, so to say. When you talk about the Egyptian pharaohs, these were religious leaders who were at the same time at the head of the states or the governors of their nations. When I talk about the popes, it's all the same. These people had religious authority as well as political authority to govern their nations. As time evolved, the religious leaders were replaced by pure politicians. That's why today we don't talk about the time of, of priests or of the so-called God's chosen people. We are now talking about politicians, pure politicians who are now governing our nations, with all people's activities. Now, as we're speaking now, the same change that happens with religious leaders, when you look properly at today's geopolitical dimension of the world, whether you consider economy, politics, everything, every area, all the 9 areas of human activities, you will see that the politicians who have been the masters on these areas for a long time are now being replaced. They are now being replaced with what we can call the money managers of the world, or the economic or the financial engineers of our world, are the ones now who are in the control, almost getting in that position to take over the control of the entire world, to control our politicians. And they will, if they succeed, they will make our politicians useless as the priests are useless today in terms of nation management. And the question now that we need to ask, what is the danger of this to us as human beings, as a human family? In fact, it is very dangerous to us, because when you look at the motivation at the core of capitalism is to make profits. All right, sorry. For people who are motivated only for one sake, which is to make profits, to make money, it will be dangerous for us to have a hope for a better life, for justice and full equality in this context, because when we are heading to a harsh slavery, if we don't change the situation in a way that we reverse things to make our states to be powerful and to be in charge of our lives instead of individual private capitalists who are now about to control the whole world. Because when you look at it, in 2016, for example, we had 62 people in the world that possessed as much as the half of the wealth in the world. Now, 1 year later, which was now 2017, it was only 8 men who had the wealth. Their wealth combined together was the half, was equivalent to half of the world's population. So this is possible that one day one person can own as much as the half of the world wealth, and it's going to be even possible that one person can get wealthy equivalent to the entire global, entire global Earth wealth. That is why we had them as millionaires. Today they are billionaires, multi-billionaires, and they're racing for what? Trillions in their bank accounts. Now, this will give them the opportunity to buy an entire nation, for example, to buy an entire country, or to buy the ocean, so that for us to live, we must pay directly to them. For us to use the water, clean water, we must pay directly to them. And that's a situation, if we don't change things, we are heading to. That's the danger I'm talking about. However, what is the opportunity of that? The opportunity that present to us is that we have a chance now to use the same formula. It's not a new formula. It is the old same formula that was tried by Marcus Garvey, the formula that was tried by Kwame Nkrumah, the formula that was tried by all the Pan-African revolutionaries that we have had in this world. And that formula is African unity. It is the Pan-Africanism. That is what we have to try now. That's the opportunity actually that we have, because every time something great, or every time we have heard a breakout in this world, it's always at a point where where the situation is more culminant. Let me rephrase myself. Every major breakout in this world took place at a moment where the situation was challenging, right? Technological breakouts took place at the moment where people were facing some tough situations. Therefore, they had to enlarge their thinking to find some technological means to deal with the situation that they were finding. So the same way today, we are facing a situation of an international imperialism that is called globalization, that is posing a threat to Africa particularly. Then it is an opportunity for us to enlarge our thinking and come up with the solution that is structured within the ideas of Pan-Africanism. One thing that we need to realize as African people, as I said, that we are in a time of danger, is that Africa is always the richest land in the world. It's still actually, and Africa has things that many people want because they cannot do or survive without what we have as resources. And on top of that, they have never wanted to pay for. Therefore, they will always find an excuse to invade Africa. So if you find yourself, you have something that many people want because their survival depend on that, and they cannot do without what you have, what you possess, you must always prepare for war, because you are in danger. Because every time they have to survive, they must take what you have, but they don't have the means to pay for that. They must destroy you so that they can possess what you have. That's the situation of Africa today. So the question is, in the face of this danger, how can we exploit the opportunity to survive or to protect ourselves and defend ourselves? We must come up with a rational and pragmatic Pan-Africanism. When I'm saying about rational and pragmatic Pan-Africanism, I'm not talking about only making speech about how unity is important, but we must have an agenda of what we are going to do when we are united. Let me give you one example. As we're speaking right now, in 2016 in Africa, we spend 42 billions individually for our national armies. Every country in Africa spend, when we bring that money together, it was 42 billions US dollars for national defense system. But when you look in Africa, there's no one single country that can challenge France, that can challenge Britain, that can challenge America. Why? Because we are weak. This money was spent mostly for the protection of head of states, actually for them to drive in armed vehicles, to have more protection and to live in luxuries, but not for the real protection of us as people at the grassroots levels. However, with the rationale, pragmatic Pan-Africanism, we will think first of all for the protection of Africa. Therefore, we can bring this money together to build a continental army system or defense system, not to protect one individual country, but to protect the whole continent of Africa. Because even though we like much to have economic power, we need to understand a person who goes in the market to buy a Lamborghini or an expensive car, but it doesn't have a place to park that car, it doesn't have a secure house where he can park that car, is a fool, because he's going to park that car in the street and the next morning you will find the car stolen. It is the same thing that we doing today. We want economic power, but we don't know, or we don't question how are we going to defend our economy. You cannot go for economic power unless you have the power to defend that economy, because every time you are powerless and you build economy, you are building that economy for your oppressors. That's what happened in 2011 with Muammar Gaddafi. He had a lot of billions of US dollars, but Africa didn't have the power to protect itself against NATO and against imperialism, right? And Muammar Gaddafi was killed. His money was stolen by Barack Obama. We need to learn from that history to understand that at this moment, it's only rational and pragmatic Pan-Africanism that can serve Africa. We have to move away or to shift from national 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 romance that national romance that we have, or whatever that we do in the context of national boundaries that I call personally colonial enclosures that were created to confuse us, to keep us away from each other so that they can easily control us. We did not to embark in a collaborative and collective efforts to rebuild Africa. There's no need to rebuild Zambia. There's no need to rebuild Congo. There's no need to rebuild Somalia, because the problem or the cause of the problem in the first place was not Zambia, Congo, or all these colonial enclosures. It was Africa. Our backbone has been broken, and we need to restore that. And that we can do only through Pan-Africanism. So this is my take for this conference within the time that was allocated to me, to emphasize that we need to change things, and we don't have to send this responsibility to the future generation. We are the ones who have to make it happen. Why? Because we are this generation. I'm seeing some elders in this conference. We have seen the world in two dimensions. We have seen the world in the 1990s, where we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have smart cars, smart TVs. If I had a need to come to you, I would have traveled all the way to your place to fellowship with you. So life was organic then. But now when you look at life now, we have smartphones, smart TVs, smart whatever, sometimes even smart people, right? So now there's no need to go physically interact with the people, use smartphone. Even the food that we're eating is no longer organic. Everything is organically modified. So the kids that are born after us, they don't know the world as we knew it, where the Ubuntu philosophy was emphasized. They know the world where robots or internet is doing everything instead of us organically interacting. So we understand the world as it has changed, and we are the ones who can put in place this, or put in practice this agenda of Pan-Africanism. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Kabala. I'm speaking to you from South Africa. I'm a member of the African Continental Unity Party, and I'm a member of the Free-Minded Pan-African Academy, which is the Academy for African leaders or future leaders in politics and business. We believe that for us to change Africa, we must tackle firstly the education, and that education must create leaders that are competent in politics leadership, political leadership, and business leadership, because they too are the backbone of every nation. Just like a man needs left and right legs to work together in balance, a nation needs leaders who are competent in politics and in business. Because when we don't have that balance, we have a situation where we have today, where we have resources, but we go to borrow from China, from England to build our nations. And that money gets to be paid with the blood of the poor people. Peace and power to all of you. Thank you very much. Pan-Africanism always, and Pan-Africanism every day.
Very much, bro.